Welcome back to the show, everybody. The Big Bang Theory. Maybe there's a bigger and deeper reason why the SEC is actually suing Ripple for XRP being an unregistered security. Let's just roll that intro and get into this. Here we go.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. Let's go ahead and get into this because what we're going to start with today is the lawsuit from the SEC suing Ripple. We know this, but stay with me. I promise you we are going somewhere, and I think you're going to like where we're going. So we know the lawsuit was initiated by SEC against Ripple for XRP being an unregistered security. So let's keep moving quickly to get to where we need to go. Let's listen to this from James Rule XRP, a very short segment of Michael Arrington talking about the SEC. And Michael Arrington, if you did not know, is a former securities lawyer. Listen to this clip really quickly.
Because the SEC is single-handedly fucking.
Let me back that up for you. Michael's a very passionate guy.
Because the SEC is single-handedly fucking this industry in the U.S. And so we have a few good U.S. investments. Proppy's one, I'm wearing their T-shirt.
By the way, Michael, I'm not so sure how you really feel.
Another one is Reserve, a company in Oakland, and a couple of others. But 80 to 90% of our investments are in Asia, Europe, and Israel right now because there are actually countries where there's enough regulatory certainty that that entrepreneurs feel safe starting token companies there, blockchain companies there. Here they don't. There's so much regulatory uncertainty, and then add to that the tax burden and the visa burdens of coming here, and then our current federal government's stance on immigration in general. They're just saying fuck it, and they're staying in Singapore or Israel or Europe instead of coming here and starting companies. It is the SEC needs to get their act together, because if they had done that with the internet in 94, 95, TechCrunch and this, none of us would be here. We'd all be living in Shanghai or somewhere else, wherever managed to get their act together.
That's about it right there. Michael Arrington makes a very, very valid point there, and I couldn't agree more. So we know the situation, how frustrating it is with the SEC. Now, here's the Howey test that the SEC has been using, and this is just a crude layout of the four-prong test so you get an idea. But the idea here is obviously that SEC get a legal precedent from this case that allows them to develop a second and new test. Let's call it the Ripple test. And they could use the Howey test for traditional securities and matching them up to see if companies fit where they fit in that four-prong test. And the SEC has created a new digital asset division for which I believe the Ripple lawsuit should get a legal precedent decision the way SEC versus Howey did in Supreme Court, which gave them the Howey test. I think for this new SEC division, we need to go the same road. I think, the right way to go is the same way they did with the Howey test, and you have the backing of the Supreme Court with that. And then once you get that legal precedent with Ripple and SEC, whatever it is, I think you get the framework for a new test, hashtag the Ripple test. Okay, stay with me. All of this has caused many exchanges to suspend or delist. Binance US, eToro, we've seen Kraken now and Coinbase, right? They have all followed suit. And we also understand that this is a part and parcel of the lawsuit from the SEC, and this is the trickle-down theory. And obviously, this is dealing U.S. domestically here at home. But I believe we can touch a larger narrative about all this in just a second. So let's keep going here. So here we see the faces of a new potential incoming here. We're going to get some new heads of these regulatory agencies. We know that Chris Brummer is quickly becoming the leading candidate so far for the CFTC. I think Dr. Brummer would be amazing in that spot. We know that Michael S. Barr from Ripple is being tapped as the nominee for the OCC to replace Brian Brooks. Hello, that's amazing. And by saying that, I do not suggest that he would do anything less than operate as an absolute professional as a regulator. But the truth of it is that if he were to go from Ripple to there, it tells me that the Congress and the people that approve him would not see any conflict of interest. And they, for one, they don't see Ripple as a bad thing, regardless of the lawsuit, or he wouldn't be going any of those places. Because you're not going to see anybody from Bitcoin nominated. Oh, that's right. There isn't anyone behind Bitcoin, remember? So when we look at this, then we look at Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler, obviously, huge background in the crypto and regulatory sector, and taught at MIT. And we're going to take a look here at a very quick clip that I shared a few days ago from Mickey B. Fresh. And by the way, check out Mickey B's channel I told you about. Go hit the like and subscribe and watch everything. Mickey B is amazing. So looking here, I want you to hear just a few words of what Gary Gensler said in 2019 about the Internet of Value. Whose phrase is that? That phrase belongs to Ripple. They're the ones that have been carrying the torch on it, and it's where he got it, I can guarantee you. Let's keep going. Listen to this.
And then something called the Internet of Value.
There you go. And he goes on to talk about the packet data, just like David Schwartz has broke down for all of us, and moving value the way you do packet data on the Internet of Information that we currently use right now. And that is really what you needed to hear for that clip. Now, with that being said, we know Gary Gensler has clearly been open in years past in saying that he believes XRP is an unregistered security. He makes no bones about it. Now, with that being said, you have to ask yourself, Gary Gensler obviously has a very good understanding of crypto. Gary Gensler obviously has a very good understanding about what the Internet of Value is and how it's supposed to function with packet data. So he has a very good understanding here of what's going on. And so does the SEC. On page 14 of the lawsuit of the SEC versus Ripple, it has line 82, which keeps sticking out at me. Ripple also undertook to achieve its goal of widespread distribution of XRP by exchanging XRP for non-cash consideration, such as labor and market-making services. So whether that be seigniorage from getting incentivizing market makers, or asking banks and financial institutions, hey, you hold some of this because what do we know about XRP? Where is it supposed to get its value when it's working at its full-scale intended use? Tell me, where does it get its value? It's not from us retail holders. It is designed to get its value by the amount of volume and utility that a company and industries can bring to the network. Bringing all of those entities together onto the network in a synchronized manner, by the way, because I can't really do this digital new world unless I have someone to do it with. So that much has to be synchronized, at least between two entities. At its very minimal approach, there has to be synchronization between two entities, or it doesn't work. Just like it won't get its real intended value to be able to service the cross-border industry and clearing houses and the level of clearing that needs to take place unless the volume that needs to drive the price up is tokenized so it can be placed on the XRP ledger to begin with. Maybe the SEC, maybe the Gary Gensler even knows before coming into the SEC that in fact this is where XRP is going to get its value from, because they are well aware that XRP and Ripple have been very successful in widespread distribution of XRP in order to incentivize all the different market makers in the different areas of industry that can bring volume and utility to its ledger. And I would tell you that if that's the case, and I believe that it is, they understand that we need to treat this differently. You know, If so, then I believe we even see, a situation here where I have a clip here of Gary Gensler, and it's as if he's talking into the future. This is 2019, but I want you to hear what he says, and it's about 2.5 minutes, but I want you to hear what he says. I'll stop where necessary, but I'll try to let most of it play as much as possible. But I want you to hear what he says about the economic gaps in payment infrastructures and clearing infrastructures. Notice that he talks about the difference between wholesale and retail offerings, the public and private sector for stable coins, and then he talks about a very, very important partnership between Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. And I'm going to show you some things while this is happening, so listen very closely here.
There is a gap, a very significant economic gap in our current payment systems infrastructure and our current security, settlement, and clearing infrastructures.
Interesting that he says that right there, right? Because what I want to show you here is from almost 3 or 4 years ago is the accelerator proof of concept. And this is from the Bank of England, like I said, 3 to 4 years old. But again, this is about synchronized settlement of payments using interledger protocol, which was developed by Ripple and gifted to W3C, the standards body committee that oversees the internet. Bank of England goes on to say in this proof of concept here, it talks about down here, cross-border payments when applied to wholesale markets present different challenges than when compared with retail and corporate transactions, which the Ripple product is designed to handle. The availability of liquidity is one such challenge, and the proof of concept allowed the bank and Ripple to begin exploring these questions. The bank is considering further proof of concept to extend its understanding of dimensions of synchronization concept. Everything at once. What they're talking about here is successfully integrated the Ripple solution with 2 simulated real-time gross settlement systems. That's what they did here 3 to 4 years ago with the Bank of England and the Interledger Protocol and Ripple. Don't believe it, it's still true. This is Gary Gensler talking about these back-end wholesale payment infrastructure, clearing infrastructure. Let's keep listening here.
And there's 2 gaps. They're not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
These things are a problem. The market should be just as the crypto market is. They're going to take the benefits from the crypto space and the advantages of blockchain and crypto, and they're going to bring that to the conventional markets, whether it's wholesale or retail, as quickly as possible to make 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365. Here we go.
They just simply aren't. They could be technologically, but they're not. Central banks have not chosen to do that yet, and it might be in the 2020s they will, but we're not there. And neither are securities clearing and settlement. Secondly, they're not continuous, meaning that even when they're open, you usually, to change a ledger balance in a payment system or a ledger balance in a security system, and particularly when you have something cross ledgers, it's the end of the day, or it's 2 days later, or it's what we would call, from those of us who remember it from the 1980s, batch processing, once a day. So they're not 24/7 and they're not continuous. I think those gaps are something that private sector actors are trying to fill with stable value tokens, both in the retail space and the wholesale space. So,
with stable value tokens. Well, that's interesting, because we've talked about the idea of a security designation being looked at as potentially, like a electronic bearer bond, which would be a fixed income instrument. If that's the case, you could certainly have the utility of this electronic bearer bond be treated as a stable coin with the utility, but looked at as a financial instrument because of the way that the value is collateralized to achieve that value by collateralizing the ledger. Let's keep listening.
So whether it's a company here local to Boston, Circle has, along with Coinbase, they have the US dollar coin, or Paxos has one, and Gemini has one. I mean, there's a lot of private sector sort of offerings to address the retail space. There's some wholesale offerings. There's a consortium of 15 or 20 large banks that are doing it. Recently, even JP Morgan says maybe we'll get in there.
I believe he's talking about the BIS Innovation Hub at that point. We talked about the 15 banks actually working on a wholesale back end. We know we've heard plenty from Brad Garlinghouse saying that central banks are looking to issue stablecoins off of the XRP ledger open source technology. That means they are interested in building a private network on their technology.
I think with these private sector offerings, you raised the question, will central banks do it as well? I think it's not even a question of if, it's just when.
So when do you think that is?
A tokenized fiat currency already, in a sense, exists because we have digital fiat currency. Central banks have reserves with commercial banks. In the U.S., there's 9,000 commercial banks that can have a digital representation of money with the central bank.
Yeah.
And then you and I have digital money with banks, which is called bank deposits.
Yep.
So then the question is will the central bank offer that to the public directly? Or will they just do it in a wholesale way somehow with some smaller group of clients?
Think about that for a second. If they do it wholesale back end with a smaller group of clients, let's say other central banks, it would be much easier for Ripple and the banks and everyone participating to update their systems, because this isn't just every human being and every cell phone and buying coffee and haircuts and sneakers, and cars and houses. No. It'd be much easier to isolate this, get it right, start it in a wholesale way that they can drive the value into it, that it works for them. Because the first identified problem that he sees, that he talks about when this all started in this conversation, was the economic gaps in the payment infrastructure and clearing infrastructure. And I don't know anyone who's been working on that as hard or as successfully as Ripple with XRP.
The countries furthest along, like Sweden and others on this project, I think somebody will do it. It's 180 or so countries. Somebody's going to do it, but I couldn't tell you whether we're 3 years away or 8 years away. Okay. It's not in 2019, I don't think. But there's even like a test pilot that Saudi Arabia is doing with the Emirates right now.
Oh, funny he should bring that up. Saudi Arabia central bank signs blockchain deal with Ripple back in 2018. You drill down into this, and it also says Saudi Arabia Central Bank is working with the United Arab Emirates Central Bank to issue digital currency that would be accepted in cross-border transactions between the two countries. UAE Central Bank Governor told Reuters in December of 2018. It says clearly right here, this will allow Saudi Arabia banks to make faster and cheaper payments, more transparent cross-border transactions, Ripple said, adding that the central bank will provide training to Saudi banks interested in the program. And here is another article to highlight that too. This is Zugga Coin gains more ground as central bank Saudi Arabia signs deal with cryptocurrency. This was in 2021. It was a reissue of the article, I believe. And it says here, Saudi Arabia Central Bank signed a deal with U.S.-based Ripple to help banks in the kingdom settle payments using blockchain software as Gulf regulator begin to explore new forms of financial technology. The pilot program is the first of its kind to be launched by central banks, allowing Saudi Arabia to use Ripple software to instantly settle payments sent into and out of the country. They said late Wednesday. I'm not going to keep reading because you get it. That's enough there to send it home. And this is exactly what he's talking about here. It's talking about they're already doing it. They're already doing it. Now, looking further here, this is just a reminder, this quick little clip here. Listen to what Christine Lagarde said when she was the managing director of the IMF at the time, and this will clear things up for you of what it is not.
Incumbents, the banks, commercial banks, and you have the disruptors. And clearly the disruptors are having an impact on the incumbents. We just heard a very large systemic bank here saying that they're launching their digital coin, currently piloted in a way within the institutional clients, but to be scaled beyond that. We heard
that's a confirmation of Wholesale back in right there.
From the European Central Bank that they have launched in November something that is called TIPS.
And she's talking about TIPS here from the European Central Bank, for which she is now the president of that bank.
That enables all the banks in the Eurozone to actually transfer instantly at virtually no cost money between them. So
that to me sounds like the XRP ledger and the XRP token, which is really more carbon neutral and more cost efficient than anything we've seen on market. Period. Full stop. Now, let's keep listening just for a second here.
I think the role of the disruptors and anything that is using distributed ledger technology, whether you call it crypto, assets, currencies or whatever, and it's far from the bitcoins that we used to talk about a year ago.
It is far from Bitcoin we used to talk about a year ago. So we know it's not that, right? We know it's not that. Then I come to the Bank of England, like we talked about, that proof of concept and exploring the synchronized settlement of payments. Again, this tokenized world doesn't work. If I'm tokenized and you're not, and I need to send you a payment, guess what? It doesn't work. However, if we both agree to move to this network, well, hell, while we're both understanding it, let's understand if the central banking system decides to do a private network, that they've all built their own private system, and then API into another private network that's built on the XRP ledger, and agree to start synchronizing and settle payments. What do you think that's going to do to the value of XRP, knowing that it's being used to settle all the money? Well, that brings me to this comment here we had a year or two ago from Victoria Cleland, who is the executive director at the time of Bank of England. And she said, payments and innovation at the Bank of England, I expect a big bang cutover, because what you have with real-time gross settlement is the core ledger supporting payment transactions worth hundreds of billions of pounds a day. And we can't have some members on it while others are not. That really leans heavily into the notion that, look, we need the SEC resolution for the SEC's new division. They need legal precedent because this crypto space is just getting started. The idea that companies can create ICOs, which are tokenized stock offerings, a STO, right? That's an ICO when you initially go out and decide to fundraise for your company and to issue tokenized stocks. That's a security token offering, right? An STO. However, when you have a company like Ripple, I believe, who's come out here and sold, in a traditional, conventional manner, private equity to their company, but have also received an asset that was developed by OpenCoin and then issued or gifted to them as Ripple. You also have this asset that's available. However, if it is to be cited that its best full-scale intended use is to be back-end in the wholesale market of central banks and clearinghouses, you may see it get a security designation so it can really pivot and move towards the institutions in a manner that makes them comfortable to use it. Because if it was a fixed income price, a fixed income investment that has a set price like a bond or a bearer bond, which still can settle like money, and if it's electronic and digital and tokenized, I believe you could have this new hybrid token and something new. It doesn't have to fit into something old like the Howey test. Like I said, that's the whole point of getting that done with the legal precedent on this case. But I think what you have done is you open the door for the potential. Because look, I'd love for all of this to get thrown out the window and they just call it currency. That would suit me greatly. But there's a reason that we're in this moment. There's a reason that the case is still ongoing. There's a reason that they suspended retail U.S. investors. And broadly on Coinbase, they're not offering it to anyone. There's a reason for it. And I have to wonder if this is a part of that pivot, if this is actually the legal pivot and the market regulator becomes the enforcer that helps decouple, and I'm using decouple for a specific reason, the retail investor, just like it'll decouple XRP from Bitcoin and the entire crypto space. Because if it gets a new designation that treats it like a bond but lets it act like a stable coin or a convertible virtual currency, call it a utility token, doesn't matter. You have something that can now no longer be held down or held back by an entire market like the crypto space or the Bitcoin dominance. That's where I'm going to put it today. The Big Bang Theory, who knows where this goes? But I know one thing. It's going somewhere, or we wouldn't be where we are today. Hit that like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Make sure you share with somebody you know and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Make sure to check out all the links in the description box and the comment section. There are really, really great products in there of products and services that I use each and every day. And more importantly, they are trusted, vetted links. I will catch all of you on the next one.